I will call the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors adjourned meeting to order at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, September 20th, 2016, General District Courtroom, 11 Bank Street, Chatham, Virginia. Please call the roll, Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Barber. Here. Mr. Hagelman. Here. Mr. Blackstock.
Present.
Mr. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Scares.
Here.
Mr. Warren.
Present.
Mr. Wattsdale.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any items to add to the agenda? Mr. Blackstock?
We have a closed session we'd like to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we are adding a closed session. Any other? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve. Mr. Barksdale, can we just read the thing Mr. Blackstock has? So we
Mr.
can get that
Blackstock,
out
would
of
you
the
read
minutes
these?
about those sessions?
Discussion, adding a closed session to discuss a discussion concerning prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community under legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.2-37118.5, subject matter project Little Light. Purpose, discussion of potential economic development incentive package.
Okay, Mr. Davis, would you restate your motion?
Yes, sir, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Warren. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you. We're down to hearing of citizens on the agenda. I don't have anyone who signed up, but ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone who would like to speak on the hearing of citizens who did not sign up? Okay. We have nothing on the consent agenda. We're going to public hearings. We have 4 rezoning cases. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to Article 5, Division 6 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance, we, the Board of Supervisors, have been empowered to hear and decide specific zoning issues and zoning map changes in support of said ordinance. In accomplishing this important task, we are responsible for promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. We must ensure that all of our decisions and recommendations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its posterity. Anyone here to speak to the board regarding zoning cases will be limited to 3 minutes. So we're at case 1. I will open the public hearing for case 1 at 7:05. Mr. Shelton.
Case 1R16-021, Jason and Beth Kazee have petitioned to rezone 42 1/10 acres located off Dual Track Road in the Cannon-Grut election district from M1 Industrial District Light Industry to A1 Agricultural District. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under section 35-178 are a permitted use. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Jason and Beth Kazee are here to represent the petition.
Mr. and Mrs. Kazee, either one of you, would you please come forward for the record? Mr. Kazee, do you have anything you'd like to present or add to the case?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, no one signed up for this case, but is there anyone who would like to speak to the zoning case? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:06.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Case.
Hagelin?
case 1, R-16-0121, zoning from M1 to A1 in the Cannon-Grut District. Jason and Beth Kazee reside on Dual Track Road off US 29 near Chatham, are requesting 42.10 acres with owner's consent rezoning from M-1 to A1. The Pittsylvania County Comprehensive Plan for the above property is listed as A1 agriculture. On September 18, 2016, I examined said property, and tonight I make a motion to rezone that property to A1.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Hagelin, second by Mr. Blackstock. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Mundy?
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes. Mr. and Mrs. Kazee, your property has been rezoned. And thank you for coming. We'll move to case 2. We'll open the public hearing at 7:07. Mr. Shelton.
Case 2, R16-022, KHC Associates LLC has petitioned to rezone 182.49 acres located on State Road 640, Spring Garden Road on State Road, and on State Road 706, Abbott Place in the Balanced Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under section 35-178 are a permitted use. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff summary is included in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Kelly Jones, agent for KHC Associates LLC, is here to represent the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Mr. Jones, would you come forward, please? Ms. Jones, do you have anything to add to the case?
No, sir.
Okay, I have one question. There's a piece of the parcel on the other side, the east side of Abbott Place.
Right.
I forget what the acreage is. Can you say what the future intent of that property will be used for?
It's around 3 acres. At this time, it's unknown. With KHC Associates, it's a possibility that they're going to break that up into lots and subdivided that.
Okay, well, that's good news. I hope it turns out that way. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No one is signed up for this case, but is there anyone here who would like to speak to this case at this time? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:10.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
case
Hagerman?
Case 2, R-16-022. Zoning request R1 to A1. KHC Associates LLC is requesting to rezone the property from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A-1 Agricultural District. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under section 35-178 are permitted use. I'd like to make a motion that this be rezoned to A1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hagerman and second by Mr. Blackstock. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Mundy?
Mr. Barber,
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Barstow.
Yes. Ms. Jones, the property has been rezoned, and thank you all for being here. Moving on to case 3. I will open the public hearing at 7:11. Mr. Shelton.
Case 3, R-16-023, Shanitra Slayton has petitioned to rezone 24.14 acres located on State Road 600, Cedar Forest Road in the Balanced Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under section 35-178 are a permitted use. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Clayton is here to represent the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Ms. Slayton, would you come forward, please? Ms. Slayton, do you have any information that you would like to add at this time to your case?
No, sir.
Okay, well, thank you, ma'am, for being here. Okay, I don't have anyone who signed up for this case, but is there someone who would like to speak to this case? I will close the public hearing at 7:12.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Blackstock?
I make a motion that in case 3, R-16-023, that we rezone said property from R1 to A1, located on Cedar Forest Road in the Advanced Election District, is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Blackstock. Is that Mr. Warren? Okay, any discussion? Mr. Mundy?
Mr. Barber,
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Warren,
Yes.
Mr. Barstow.
Yes. Ms. Slayton, your property has been rezoned, and thank you, ma'am, for being here.
Thank you.
Case 4, I will open the public hearing at 7:13. Mr. Shelton.
Case 4, R-16-024, Adam and Jennifer Cooper have petitioned to rezone 1 acre located on U.S. Highway 40 West Gretna in the Cannon-Gretna election district from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District. Once the property is rezoned to R1, all uses listed under section 35-222 are a permitted use. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request. The staff summary is included in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Cooper is here to represent the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Mr. Cooper? Mr. Cooper, do you have any additional information that you'd like you to share for this case? Okay, thank you for coming. No silence for this case. Anyone who would like to speak? I will close the public hearing at 7:15.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hagerman.
case score -R-16-024. Adam and Jennifer Cooper wish to have this 1 acre property rezoned, which is located at the intersection of 12044 40 West and Starland Drive in the Sandy Level Community, Calhoun Gretna District, from A1 Agriculture to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District. I make a motion to this effect.
Motion by Mr. Hagerman, second by Mr. Barber. Any discussion?
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes. Mr. Cooper, your property has been rezoned. Thank you for that. We are on a new business on the agenda, item 8. We're going to bypass item 8 right now. We have a presenter who is not here, but probably on his way here. So we'll come back to item 8 on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hoback is here. He is in the room, but also we have item 7 under unfinished business, just to bring to your attention.
Okay, Mr. Hoback, my apologies.
No problem.
I think you would have been the glasses. That's right. Now over item 7. Item 7 under unfinished business. Mr. Money.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the August expenditure refunds total $64,133.91. At your last meeting, there was a motion and a second. Therefore, the 10-day layover has been met. Following any discussion, we will need a roll call vote.
Any discussion on the side? Okay, Mr. Money.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes. Mr. Money, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, Mr. David Hoback, the Executive Director of the West Piedmont Planning District Commission, requested a short presentation to you to talk a little bit about some strategic planning efforts of the PDC and get a little input and guidance from you, making sure the PDC represents Pittsylvania County's interest. And the second thing he would like to talk with you a little bit about, it is the time of the year for boards to start thinking about the legislative agenda. You as a board, you have a voice through VACO. You have your own voice through local legislators, being through not only the state, but also the United States with whatever legislative needs you have. But also keep in mind that the PDC is a voice for you, and he would just like to talk to you a little bit to start finding out your preliminary interest if you're ready to declare any legislative priorities.
Thank you, Mr. Money. Mr. Hoback? Mr. Hoback is the Executive Director of the West Piedmont Planning District Commission. We appreciate you being here, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm very thankful for a few minutes on your agenda, and I will be brief. I promise you I'll try to be respectful of your time, but I just wanted to share with you an activity that we have going on right now that we're pretty excited about, and we want to make sure that you all know about it. One of the things that when I came on board as executive director going on 2 years ago, I talked a lot with our commission about the need for the Planning District Commission to move beyond technical type activities, helping with comp plans, doing various regional plans, GIS mapping, things of that nature, which are strengths for us, and we will continue to do, be very proud of those activities. But we wanted to move the planning district forward in terms of positioning the planning district to be a facilitator of regional approaches, a facilitator of regional conversation and regional dialogue. Earlier this year, we received a grant from the Virginia Department Housing and Community Development, Building Collaborative Communities grant to enter into a strategic planning process, for lack of a better way of describing that. And we're calling the West Piedmont Regional Summit. And the first meeting in that process is going to be October 19th in Martinsville at New College Institute. And to date, we've identified approximately 100 stakeholders from across the region that we are invited to this process. Certainly, Mr. Barksdale as chairman and Mr. Mundy as county administrator have been formally extended invitations. Mr. Scarce and Mr. Davis as members of the Planning District Commission have been extended invitations to attend as well. But that doesn't mean that any of you that have an interest in participating would be no less than welcome to be there. One thing that we would also like your help in is in terms of reaching out to stakeholders. I'm going to share with Mr. Monday the list of attendees. If there's folks on that list that you feel that we have missed in terms of being someone that could contribute to the process, we would like to know about that person. We're looking at a pretty diverse group of individuals, local government representatives, K through 12, education, higher education, economic development, workforce development, nonprofits, human service agencies, pretty much the full gamut that in one form or another all contribute to the welfare and the livelihood of our communities. And we basically have three objectives in the process. One is a capacity building project for the PDC. In other words, helping us better establish ourselves as a convener of regional stakeholders and a facilitator of regional thought and dialogue. Secondly, we're looking at an opportunity to identify, at least on a regional basis, some priorities, objectives, and potential projects that would have the potential to be regional approaches that would make sense for more than one locality to collaborate on together. And the third element of the process is to hopefully get some dialogue and some conversation started that would allow the region to be able to compete effectively in the Go Virginia grant process that is coming up. In connection with all of this, I guess there's really three things that is my pitch to you all tonight, and none of the three things involve asking you for any money. First is to make you aware of the process, which hopefully I have, and I certainly will entertain any questions that you might have. Secondly, to ask for your support and participation. In efforts like this, they either live and die by who comes and who participates in the effort. You know, if we have good participation, folks engaged, then we're likely to have some good results as an end product of the effort. And third, as I've mentioned previously, to advocate with stakeholders in your community. Like I said, I'm going to be sharing the list with Mr. Mundy, and he can share it with you all as appropriate. If you see folks on that list from your community that not only that might be missing, but folks that you have relationships with and think would be important to come and participate in this process, we would appreciate your support by reaching out to those folks and encourage them to come and participate in the meeting. So in a nutshell, that's what we're attempting to accomplish. Again, I thank you for your time and listening, and moreover, would very much covet your support and participation in the process. I'll gladly attempt to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Obeck. We really appreciate having you here. And I know the Planning District Commission just has a ton of great information, and I know this is going to be value added. Will this be an all-day event?
We are looking at starting around 11 a.m. Would have lunch, and would continue through the afternoon and wrap up the formal session around 5, and then would have a small networking reception following the day. So
Sounds great, and you've got representatives. I hope that they will be able to attend. But to the board, any questions or comments of Mr. Hobart? Mr. Davis?
Dealing with Mr. Hobart, as we have, Mr. Scarce has the opportunity to attend more than I do. I'm very appreciative for what they do while we sleep. They do an aerial view of roads, the entirety that they look at is phenomenal. And they go unsung, and I do compliment you and your work as well as your team. And you don't go unsung in my book, because I appreciate what you do. It was like a window, it was like a light that came on the first time that I went. I just appreciate it, because the safety factor that's involved, that goes into planning, a lot of people don't even realize. I appreciate what you do, Mr. Hobart.
thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other comments, questions? Well, again, sir, we appreciate you coming, and I will see you on the 19th. And I hope I'll bring the gag over with me.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr.
Very
Hobart.
Thank you all much, and good luck with the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Item 9 on the agenda, Mr. London.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, item A involves merchants' capital tax refunds. Following the board amended the way the merchants' capital tax is assessed, the Commissioner of Revenue notified our office that 3 refunds are necessary. And as you know, this is not unanticipated. She made it very clear in the beginning that this was put in effect back to January 1st of the current calendar year, that there will be some refunds. So these are being brought to us so those refunds can be considered by the board. One involves Atkinson Truck Sales. The other is J&J Truck Sales, and the third and final one is Smith Mountain Industries. These are required to be reimbursed not only at the principal, but also with accrued interest, and that is a statutory requirement. The staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors authorize the treasurer to issue these 3 refunds, which have a cumulative total included interest of $113,616.32.
Thank you, Mr. London. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we authorize the treasurer to refund Atkinson Truck Sales, refund including interest of $40,607.75. J&J Truck Sales, a total refund due with interest of $40,366.33. And Smith Mountain Industries, total refund due with interest of $32,642.24, or total tonight of $113,616.32.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blackstock, second by Mr. Barber. Any discussion on the motion? This is the roll call vote, is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, this will not require a 10-day layover because it is in the refund classification. So we'll just go into a recorded vote at this time.
We're ready to vote, Mr. London.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes. Item 9B, Commonwealth Attorney, additional state funds. Mr. London.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office was notified by the Commonwealth of Virginia Compensation Board that they had vacancy savings remaining after the current budget was adopted. So this is additional revenue in for the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office for salaries in that office. Staff recommends that the board amend the Commonwealth's Attorney's budget and appropriate the given amount, which is $4,056 $55 to the salary and fringe line items as stated on page 25 in your board packet from the additional funds that will be received from the State Compensation Board. This will require a motion, a second, and a roll call vote.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, put that in form of a motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Barber and a second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion?
I think just for the citizens sitting out there, you need to, what's going on here is, this is money that was sent down from the state to be spent by a Commonwealth attorney. It was left over in their budget, and so if we don't do this take this action tonight, they would lose the money and would remain with the state. So that's what we're doing.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Blackstock. Mr. Mundy?
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Haberman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes. We are at item 9C on the agenda, which is the Workforce Investment Board Incumbent Worker Training Program Grant. Mr. Mundy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Workforce Investment Board requests an appropriation for a notice of obligation that has been received, actually in the name of Pittsylvania County, that provides training for incumbent workers. And I will emphasize, these are not local tax dollars. These are dollars that are allocated through the federal government, through the state, to make sure we can handle incumbent worker needs. The notice is on page 27 of your board packet. For the program year ended 12/31/17, for $150,000, no local match is required. The budget breakdown of what the WIA plans to do with these funds is on page 28 in the spreadsheet. The staff recommends receipt of these funds and appropriating $150,000 as budgeted in the WIA fund. Mr. Chairman, I will just remind our citizens especially that the county serves as the fiscal agent for the WIB, and again, no local funds are involved in this transaction. The money just has to flow through the county budget for expenditure by the WIB. As I stated, we will need a motion, a second, and a recorded vote, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Monday. Is there a motion to approve and appropriate?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we appropriate the $150,000 to the WIA fund.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Warren and second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Monday?
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes. We are at item 9D on the agenda. The courthouse maintenance appropriation. Mr. Monday?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the courthouse maintenance fund exists to be used to maintain the county courthouse. This is substantiated in the Virginia Code. These are fees that are added to specific court cases, and then there is a formula that divides that money once it's paid in by a defendant that's convicted, and it goes into certain funds. One of those funds would be the courthouse maintenance fund. Roof repairs are underway at the courthouse. The roof needs replacing there. It's in a state that needs immediate attention. The balance in this account that has accrued to date is just over $40,000. At the moment, we are asking the board to approve an amendment to the courthouse maintenance budget and appropriate a total of $37,000. And again, this is not general fund money, so we would just need to give the finance department this authorization here to make that budget line item whole for the stated purpose. This will also be a recorded vote and does not require 10-day later.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monday. What's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we amend the courthouse maintenance budget and appropriate a total of $37,000 to the said budget.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Blackstock and a second by Mr. Barber. Any discussion on the motion?
Just one more to let the citizens know, these are taken out of court costs and fees when people go to court, so it's not local money, it's money we're transferring in from the way the state figures the formula into the appropriate line item so we can repair the roof with those monies. So basically, the criminals are paying us to fix the roof hole, paying for the roof fix.
Thank you, Mr. Blackstock. Mr. Bundy?
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. We're at item 10 on the agenda, award RFP for outreach detention services and electronic monitoring services. Back to you, Mr. Bundy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. RFPs, requests for proposals, were sent out for juvenile domestic relation court to reduce the need for secure detention. So this is a program that instead of a juvenile that has been involved in a situation and being sentenced directly to secure detention, this is to find alternatives in lieu of that highest level of punishment. These services in this RFP include outreach, crisis intervention, and electronic monitoring in certain instances. This RFP that was sent out by the county staff, it's RFP number 16-06-28, that was sent out on June 28th of the current year. That was distributed through our normal process through the purchasing department. County received 5 responses. A committee assembled of relevant stakeholders. They reviewed the proposals, ranked them, and interviewed the top 2. Those 2 firms considered in the interview process Intercept Youth and WW Moore. The committee determined that Intercept Youth is the best choice and matches the needs of the J&D court the best. This contract is for a 2-year period with 1 possible 2-year renewal. Funds are already budgeted for this purpose. County attorney has reviewed this matter, has a stamp on there in the board packet on page 31. Mr. Hunt can speak if he has any concerns. I'm not aware of any, but if you have any questions from Mr. Hunt, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer those. The staff does recommend authorizing the county administrator to execute the contract with Intercept Youth Services, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Bundy. Mr. Hunt, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we authorize the county administrator to execute the said contract with Intercept Youth Services Incorporated based on the recommendation of the committee that was set forth to review the request for proposal.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blackstock, and second is it Mr. Hager. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question, and this is probably for Mr. Hunt. Mr. Hunt, for these folks that are going to have the outreach detention service and electronic monitoring from our juvenile and domestic relations court, very often the fine includes some reimbursement for these type expenses as part of it. Do we have an opportunity where we might get some of these funds back?
I think we do. You bring up a good question. I think Kim could answer it, but we certainly can provide that information to you. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll put it on my to-do list and I'll get that back.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Okay. Any other discussion? Will this be a hand, this is not a...
Hand vote is sufficient, Mr. Chairman.
No further discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you. We're at item 11 on the agenda, the health insurance study. We have an update by Ms. Jordan. I will refer this to Monday.
Mr. Chairman, I will
Sure.
defer to Ms. Jordan.
Okay?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you know, one of my top priorities prior to coming on to Pittsylvania County was to look into wage and benefits. Mr. Mundy recognized there was a need for us to address where we are ranked according to other localities and how competitive we are with our wage and benefits. And as you're aware, most recently, we are addressing our recent rate increase of nearly 15%. And a portion of my job now is focusing on addressing the rate increase, which recently the board approved additional 15% credit premium. And as we know, this is a nationwide problem, so we're tackling this at the county level, and we're looking at this compared to other localities. And one of the things that we're doing to address this is that was a short-term solution. And we have created an insurance focus group, and that consists of entry-level to supervisory level positions and departments throughout the county. And that was created in August to address short-term strategies, which one I just mentioned with the premium credit, and long-term strategies to help alleviate the increasing cost of insurance premiums. So most recently, the insurance focus group evaluated that short-term solution to help ease the financial impact of the 15% renewal increase. And on August the 16th, the Finance Committee of the board supported one of the two recommendations, which was option 2, as I mentioned, the 15% credit towards the insurance renewal premium for the 2016-17 renewal year. And again, we appreciate the board's unanimous vote to support additional premium contributions. But we know the work doesn't stop here. The insurance focus group is now tasked with identifying long-term solutions that will provide employees with more options and the ability to take some control of their premium share. The insurance focus group members were asked to drive discussions with staff on what's considered most important and feasible in providing premium relief. One of the steps towards identifying long-term solutions include what we're working on now is an employee survey. And the survey is to determine the areas of insurance planning that are most important to the employees, such as premium contributions and a tiered approach with a focus on dependent coverage, wellness incentives to offer premium credits, and whether the focus is on higher wages or premium reductions. And we know this is something that right now the county can't do both, so we want to find out which one is most important to our employees. And then also other health care plan options. So in August, the Department of Human Resource Management for the Commonwealth of Virginia reached out to local governments and schools to inform us the governor signed legislation, Senate Bill 364, that directs the DHRM to develop a plan under the local option health insurance plan to provide benefits similar to those the state employees receive. And this is using a single rating group. So the proposed plan is based on COBRA Care Basic Plan and the COBRA High Deductible Health Plan, which is through Anthem. So I, along with Mr. Mundy, Mrs. Vanderhyde, and constitutional officers participated in a webinar that gave us the opportunity, along with many other localities, to learn about the proposed plan, again, Senate Bill 364. So we were given a choice to submit a preliminary non-binding interest or even no interest based on the information we reviewed at that point in order for the DHRM to determine the next steps. So the next steps will be based on the level of interest for those who participated in the webinar and the receipt of required information such as the insurance data. So DHRM is seeking input from decision makers on things such as eligibility, participation, total population health coverage, employer contributions, financial reserves, stop loss, and adverse experience and administration of the plan. So the county is following, they have a tentative schedule that we're following their timeline as provided by the Department of Human Resource Management. And I'll just give you a list of where we are now moving forward according to their timeline. August is when we participated in the webinar. September the 14th was the deadline that the county had to communicate its preliminary non-binding interest in the plan, which we have done so. October 14th is the deadline to submit the actuarial information. This is the information they're going to use from us and other localities that are interested to determine the premium rates. So the county's broker and I will provide the requested information by that deadline. The remaining timelines moving forward are January, the DHRM will publish the preliminary premium rates. February, the participants will indicate their continuing interest in participating, because this is contingent on if they have at least 5,000 members participate in this self-funded plan for us to even move forward. August 2017, complete procurement if needed. October 2017, they will publish the final premium rates. December, the participants make a binding election to participate. And May 2018, conduct open enrollment. And then July 2018, they're expected to go live. So giving you that schedule, this is all the information we have at this point. We want to let the board know this is one of the steps that we're looking at going forward in the terms of as far as long-term strategy. And as soon as we get more definitive information, then I'll be happy to update the board moving forward. Are there any questions at this point?
Mr. Davis?
Ms. Jordan, I would like to know where, if you've got this information, where is Pittsylvania County ranked?
According to,
You said we were ranked, you were looking into being where we were ranked. Where are we? If you have that information, I was just wondering.
as far as premiums with other localities,
Yes,
or
ma'am.
not to give a number, but we're alongside like Martinsville, Henry County, Campbell County. We're all in a similar situation as far as rates. It's just a matter of which employer is able to contribute a little bit more. And right now, we do contribute a little more than Martinsville. But as we renew, we'll have to update that information and reassess it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Jordan, I know you mentioned the focus group, but you also used the term survey.
Yes.
Can you just say something about this?
Yes. So the survey will capture information that our goal is to get 100% participation. And what we'll do is we'll ask employees questions that I mentioned, which is more important to you, wages, wage increase, or premium decrease. And if they are employee-only coverage, if dependent coverage is made more affordable, are they likely to go on to the family plan or spouse, single and spouse, employee plus one? Because if we're able to provide more premium credit, we want to see the likelihood if they would go to dependent coverage. We would ask them if they're not covered, if they're covered under their spouse's plan. And then we would try to get an idea if premiums are affordable, if that's likely to entice them to come on to the county plan. If they have dependents, if they're not insured, are they insured on another plan? So those are just a few examples that we'll try to find out exactly what the exposure is and how to address it.
Yeah, thank you. That explains it for me. Mr. Warren?
Yes, Ms. Jordan, just along with the focus group, as part of y'all's discussion, are you also talking about trying to implement or involve the staff and the other members that aren't just county staff members in any healthy lifestyle changes or any programs to promote that? Because that has been one way I know a lot of the major industries have focused on in order to better control rate increases and all from promoting the healthy lifestyle.
Right, and that's a good point. That's that's a piece of our long-term strategy that we're working with our insurance brokers to see what other options, wellness options can you provide that we can tie into, as I mentioned, premium credits, where it's smoking cessation or fitness wellness programs, or just anything that we can give the employee more control over their premium and maybe make them a little bit more responsible for that. And also health-wise, there will be an incentive to encourage them to have their annual wellness checks, just to show proof of that. So we're working with our brokers to look at options that we can incorporate that into our survey.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Great information. Ms. Jordan, we appreciate you taking the time to provide the update. We look forward to what comes next.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're at item 12 on the agenda, release from our
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have heard from the former library director, Ms. Atkins, about the increased usage at the Mount Herman branch of the library, and also the limited space that is available at that facility to meet the patrons' needs. The former board that heard from that directed Ms. Atkins and the county staff to start looking for other possible locations that may serve as a good branch to meet the long-term needs of the county. And then under the current leadership, Ms. Toot has kept the board very informed and actually set up a tour that I found of high value for the board to go out and look at the existing location. And the board was able to tour that facility, ask any questions, and also heard from the staff as to about the current facility, how it works, what the advantages are of that site, and what the disadvantages are of that site, and what kind of needs that they have that are not being met. And the board challenged the staff of the county and also the library to do very thorough due diligence in making sure the long-term interests of the county were examined. And I'd just like to highlight the three options that the staff's really looked at. One would be to renovate in place. In other words, take the current location that that branch is in and determine if the county can invest dollars there and how beneficial would that be to meet the long-term needs. So that was examined and not found to be a very effective strategy because of the current limited amount of space that's available there and how difficult it may be to expand in a cost-effective manner. The staff's also examined building a site on its own, not leasing like we currently do. The challenge in that area, as you know, on 41 is a very busy location with high land values. So we know the county would have to purchase some space, would also have to pay for some earthwork to be done there to clear the site if necessary, and also to pay for the bricks and mortar. And we know that that has a high cost, and that was not determined to be the optimal strategy either, due to the expense. The other alternative examined was look for somewhere else to lease. That was examined in detail, and that was determined to be the best long-term option. The library, the county staff located a 5,000 square foot facility on Franklin Turnpike that's owned by Tuscarora Farms Incorporated. And you know where that site is, you've been there, you toured the location, and you notice that it is currently broken into one large facility, but it has the potential to be subdivided into 4 like it formerly was. And it also has the ability to be a blank canvas to where the existing wall spaces in there can be moved around to meet the needs of the library. The staff basically looked to see what it would take to move into that current location. And in order to do so, the county would need a lease and a renovation appropriation because the county does not own that property. A potential lease was negotiated, and that is in your board packet on page 55 through 72. Mr. Hunt, Mr. Hawker, Ms. Toot, they've worked a lot on that. And provided for you outside of the board packet this evening, we want to make sure our media has a copy of this as well. We have copies up there near the podium. There is an amended lease that we have for your consideration that Mr. Hunt would like to speak to in a minute. It's a small change regarding the insurance and the way that is provided on the structure. So again, Mr. Chairman, the county negotiated a possible lease for your consideration. Currently, the county pays $1,000 per month for the current space that we lease now. Under the proposed lease, that would change to $3,500 per month. And we do have those monies included in the current operating budget. Again, go back to the prior board and the current board, directing the staff to find a location. We had an idea based upon the market, that would be the going rate. Those funds were put into the county budget as a placeholder. So at least on the operating side, you would be covered to get you through the budget year for that increase if you decide to go to this option. The term, the staff felt, would be beneficial to go with a 10-year term to protect the capital investment that the county would have to make in renovating that space. making sure that we didn't pay X amount of dollars 2 years later, we get our eviction notice and have to do it all over again. That is provided in the proposed lease. There's also A&E work, architectural and engineering work, and renovation costs. It's been anticipated by the staff and estimated not to exceed $190,000. And that matter will be next on your agenda, Mr. Chairman, assuming you give the staff authorization to execute the lease and move forward. So again, Mr. Chairman, in summary, if the county decides to move forward with this, the staff does recommend approving the attached lease. I'll get Mr. Hunt to talk with you a little bit more about the terms of the lease and authorize the county administrator to execute it. And in short, if you decide to go this route, what you will be approving is to go from $1,000 a month in your current rent to $3,500 per month. And instead of building a new library on a greenfield site, you know how many zeros that will take. You'd be basically providing the renovations for up to $190,000. And Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions for me in a few minutes, I'll be happy to answer them. I know Ms. Tu would like to speak with you. She does have some members of her board here with her, and Mr. Hunt would like to talk with you a little bit about the proposed lease.
Okay, Mr. Hunt, do you want to go now, or I can have Ms. Tu?
I can go now.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hunt.
You have in front of you two documents that I handed out to you, and I emailed you today, and I put a copy for the public. The only change, and it's a very minor one, is on page 9 of the lease, which would be page 63 of your board packet, and that's in section 11D. We just struck out the first sentence and then a clause about halfway down, paragraph D. And this strikeout has been approved by Mr. Bolton of Tuscarora Rural Farms. He's been very accommodating during this whole process, and I thank him. He approved that by email last night. And what it basically does is it allows us to not be dictated by the lessor to which insurance company that we utilize. Just want to highlight a couple high points of this lease. As Mr. Mundy stated, it's 5,000 square feet. It's a 10-year lease. The lease is $3,500 per month. If we don't pay by the 7 days after due date, we do have a 10% penalty. Most importantly in this thing is section number 5. There's a non-appropriation clause. And for people who've been on the board for a while, you understand that basically under the state of Virginia, since it's a 10-year lease, one board of supervisors cannot bind another board of supervisors based on a decision. So what that says, I inserted this in there, it just says that at any time the board fails to appropriate funds during the budgeting process to the library, we can walk away from this lease with no penalties. Also, the lessor is going to pay all taxes on this building. We, the county, will pay all utilities and fees that we have. They will maintain the parking area, the roof, the exterior of the building, and all the plumbing, electrical, and heating, and air conditioning units. We will be responsible for the build-out, and at the end of the lease, any fixtures that we place in there that we can remove without causing significant damage to the structure will be our property at the end of this lease. We also are required to carry insurance. If something were to happen, we've agreed to list Tuscarora Farms as a secondary beneficiary on our insurance policy. And basically, that is all. And I do want to thank Mr. Hawker. Mr. Warren has been very involved in this. Ed Love-Braren has been very involved in this. And I do want to thank Mr. Bolton for being very accommodating during this whole process.
Mr. Hunt, thank you for your vigilance and stepping ahead of us and doing that. Ms. Tu, would you come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Barksdale, gentlemen. And I wanted to thank you for the support that you have shown in this process and to commend Mr. Monday, Mr. Hunt, and Mr. Hawker for all the hard work that they put in to assure all of us that we've gotten the best possible option for the library and for the county. If you agree to move forward on this project, then the library board and our foundation will begin a fundraising process for a similar amount of money to furnish the interior and do the exterior add-ons that I think will make the library truly a showpiece for the county. And I look forward to doing that, and I look forward, if you are happy with that result, to working with you in the future to carry on the same sort of process for our Gretna branch.
Thank you.
Do you have any
Before-
questions?
Yeah, before you step in. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion? Mr. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, with a great deal of excitement, I recommend that we approve the project to authorize the county administrator to enter into the lease agreement with Tuscarora Farms.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Warren and a second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion on the motion?
The only thing I would like to say, Mr. Chairman, is thank you all so much. I think it's going to be worth the wait. We've needed it for a long time, and I know the citizens are so excited about, in anticipation of this happening, have been waiting on it. I'm excited about it. I was very excited to hear that you all are going to do some fundraising to be, you've already been a big part of the project, but that even makes it bigger, and I'm just excited to see the finished product.
I've got Mr. Warren's excitement too, because I got the letter from the studio. It's just so remarkable when I look at this, how the numbers just keep growing. And we've just got, some of our citizens just cannot get enough of the services that our library system provides. It's such a welcome sign for Pittsylvania County and for our region. It's just all positive. There's nothing negative. It's all positive, and I think we're just going to see it, that it'll keep on getting better. Any other?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for what y'all have done.
Okay, just will this be just a hand?
Yeah.
All in favor, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at item 13 on the agenda. Renovation appropriation for the Herman Library, Mr. Mundy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, knowing that the board favorably authorized the execution of the staff lease, the staff recommends that the board appropriate from unappropriated funds $190,000. Remember, that's up to $190,000 for the renovations of the Mount Herman Library. This will require a motion and a second at this meeting to start the required 10-day label.
Mr. Warren.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we appropriate from unappropriated funds $190,000 for the renovation, up to $190,000 for the renovation of the Mount Herman Library.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Warren and a second by Mr. Farmer.
No discussion.
Okay. Okay. We're at item 14, the animal shelter project update, and we have Mr. Nevin, but did you want to say something first, Mr. Nevin?
And while Mr. Darren's coming up, I just wanted to let you know that the animal shelter project is finished. It seems like it. Claire Construction is wasting no time on that project, and it's exciting to see the progress that they have at that site. But what we thought we'd do would bring in Mr. Darren, Mr. Chairman, and let him talk with you a little bit about the planning that he's doing that involving fundraising and working with his sources and able to have a good fundraising campaign. And also, he wants to talk with you about some collaboration opportunities that he has in the works. So, Mr. Chairman, this will be for information only. You may have some further guidance and input for the county staff on how to maximize this project. And we're all ears. We'd be excited to hear your ideas and suggestions as well.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Nevin. You're welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll be brief. I'll let you know we are moving forward with our fundraising. On September the 8th,
contracted with a professional services group to help move us forward. And we're going to go through with the shelter enhancement and our fundraising opportunities. I had met a couple of times with the group, and sometime within the next few weeks, we hope to kick off all of our events. We are also studying the process of the volunteers. It's a new process for the county, so it's taking a little bit of time. We're polling surrounding counties to see what their process is, so we want to make sure we get it right. And also, as of today, I spoke with Ms. Dotson from the Community Foundation. They have received 11 gifts totaling $11,640, and that's just from general publicity before we've even started. So we hope to move forward in the next few weeks with increased. Any questions?
Okay.
In regards to the fundraising, the community, I understand we contracted with someone then to assist us in the fundraising. Is the community foundation also at the table with? Yes, we are working hand in hand. I would be interested in knowing what type of activities, when I realize you're in the beginning of the process, but I would like for the board to be briefed on what type of activities that you decide to do after working with the Community Foundation and the contracted company, and whether you're going to sell bricks or whatever you're going to do. I think the board would be interested in knowing what steps you. And I don't expect you to tell us tonight, but I know as y'all have meetings, I would like to be updated. I think the board would. We're in the process of forming a committee and so forth. We'll have a lot of ideas come forward from the committee, boots on the ground, and so we'll keep the board up to date on any progress that we make.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Narrow? Mr. Narrow, thank you, and we look forward to the future. I did see Ms. Dodson at the Health Summit this morning, and she relayed exactly what you reported, and she was very excited and very optimistic that those kinds of donations are going to keep coming in, and that's what we want. But thank you, sir, and you have our support, just know that. Thank you. Item 15 on the agenda, request for a resolution in support of the Old Dominion Agricultural.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Old Dominion Agricultural Foundation requested endorsement from the Board of Supervisors so ODAF can submit grant applications to expand the horse, cattle, barn, and arena facilities at the Ag Center. The Foundation Board would like to submit two different grant applications. One would be for $600,000 to the Virginia Tobacco Commission, and the other would be also for $600,000 to the Danville Regional Foundation. This does not require any financial commitment from the County Board of Supervisors. It is just an endorsement. And as such, in your board packet on page 76 is a proposed resolution 2016-09-04, which memorializes the board's endorsement for this project. And Mr. Chairman, if the board decides to make this endorsement as requested, staff recommends approval of the said resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Bundy.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve the resolution for both projects, both grant applications.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Warren and a second by Mr. Barber. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you. Item 16, Mr. Bundy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the Board of Supervisors announced at its last meeting that it may interview candidates for the county administrator's vacancy within the next 15 days. And the board has interviewed, as I stated, and on the abundance of caution, Mr. Chairman, the staff proposes to the board that we certify such closed meeting, and that was in accordance with the legal requirements of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So, Mr. Chairman, the first thing I'd like to do would be read a certification of such closed meeting, and then I'll ask the board to certify that as you do anytime you come out of closed session. And then before we go to the next matter, I have one more statement about the same subject I'd like to read for the board. So, Mr. Chairman, I will read the statement. This is Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors closed meeting certification. Be it resolved that at a meeting of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors at undisclosed times within the past 15 days of the required announcement at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, and at an undisclosed location held solely for the purpose of interviewing candidates for the position of Pittsylvania County Administrator as authorized by Virginia Code 2.2-3712, Section B, the members hereby certify by recorded vote that to the best of each Board of Supervisor member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meetings. If any Board of Supervisors member believes that there was a departure from the requirements of the Virginia Code, he shall so state prior to the vote, indicate the substance of the departure. The statement shall be recorded in the Board of Supervisors minutes. Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read another code section so the board can continue this process. Pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3712B, the Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors will be holding closed meetings at undisclosed locations within the following 15 days for the purpose of interviewing candidates for the position of Pennsylvania County Administrator. And Mr. Chairman, that requires no further action.
Thank you, Mr. Money, very much. I don't think we have overlooked anything, so we're down to board announcements. Mr. Warren, sir, we'll start with your side.
I have none.
Mr. Davis?
I have none.
Mr. Scares?
I have none, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Blackstock?
I have none, sir.
Mr. Hager?
Yes, I do have one. Ladies and gentlemen, and members of the board, this past Saturday, the Climax Rotary Club sponsored the Climax Slogan Festival. An estimated 600 citizens attended. There were many vendors, and they had even had Let's Play special events, bring the bouncy house, the special appearance of Spider-Man. The Rotary Club served lots of good food, including fried pies and stew. Live music was provided by the band Legends and gospel tunes. All proceeds from this festival goes back into the community. It's they worked hard. I worked hard. I made fried pies. So if you didn't get one of my fried pies, you just lost out. But anyway, on October 6th, the Gretna Alzheimer's Group will have a walk in Gretna to Gretna Christian Church on Lefford Street to raise money to help find cure for Alzheimer's. It costs us $5 to walk and help raise money. At 4:30 to 5:30 p.m., there will be a hot dog supper with all the trimmings for $5. And while you're eating there, there will also be bluegrass music and a photo time. At 5:45, there will be an opening ceremony. The 1 mile walk will start at 6 p.m. And if you're interested in doing this, my wife will be downstairs at the steps, and she'll take up your $5 like she takes up my $5. So I'd like to invite everybody to be up there. It's money well spent. And thank you all for attending our meetings. And if we can ever help, just give us a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hager.
I have none.
Okay. I have nothing at this time. We'll go to Mr. Monday.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd just like to ask you and the public to keep Ms. Flippin in your thoughts and prayers. She has a minor health issue that she's dealing with right now, and she's going to be out of the office for a few days, so I appreciate Kaylin, Ms. McCluster, call her by the right name now that she's married, but I appreciate Kaylin filling in for us on short notice today, and just want to let you know that we'll get Ms. Flippin back as soon as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Monday. Mr. Hunt. closed session.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is the matter that the board added to the agenda this evening when it was considered the agenda. Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors is considered entering closed session under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A5 for discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of a business's or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. This is to discuss potential economic development incentive package for Project Little Light. And I still wonder where we come up with these code names. Mr. Chairman, we would need a motion, a second, and then I'll call the roll.
Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion, Chairman.
Okay,
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll ask that we'll have Mr. Sides, Mr. Rowe, Mr. Hunt, and myself participate in the closed session.
So we thank you.
Mr. Chairman, be it resolved that at the meeting of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, September 20th, 2016, the Board of Supervisors members hereby certify by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. If any member of the board believes there was a departure from the requirements of the Virginia Code, he shall so state prior to the vote indicating the substance of the departure. The statement shall be recorded in the Board of Supervisors minutes. I will now call the roll. Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Barksdale?
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, no further action from the staff.
Motion to adjourn.